welcome back. As we earlier said, that of course the preparations are taking its course in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, and here even in Cairo for COP27, the biggest event of the time. Of course, world leaders are going to start to flock to come over to Sharm el-Sheikh, and intellectuals, and of course NGOs, and all the people who are concerned with this global issue, which is the climate change. Climate change is one huge topic that you can discuss it or look at it or observe it from many angles. And today we're going to take it from the angle of the role of youth standing to the challenges of climate change and what exactly could be required from the future generation. Of course, there is a lot required from future generations. And we're very delighted to be having with us Ibrahim Jibrin. He's ambassador to African youth. And of course, he's almost Egyptian and staying here in Egypt and is participating on many activities, especially youth activities that is targeting the challenges of climate change. Good morning, Ibrahim. How are you doing?
Good morning, Dina. It's my pleasure and honor to be here again.
Thank you. My pleasure too. First of all, we need to talk about a definition of the climate change to the viewers, because until this very moment, in spite of all the hazards of these challenges that are starting to unfold, will start to unfold in the coming years, and hopefully we'll be able to stop it, some people are not fully unaware of the dangers of climate change.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dina, for asking me such a question. You know, most of the people have been hearing this of terminology climate change. So many of them do not have that much education about the climate change. Even me myself, when I was when I was undergraduate, I used to study in the university climate change since when I was in level 1. So every and each single semester, we used to take a little bit about the climate change. But at that particular time, I didn't used to know what the exact climate change means. But in my final year, I did a research. I conducted a research concerning this climate change. So finally, I realized that all the globe in general, there will be climate change, which is already have been studied. And if we can take a big example with Egypt, we can see with the reality, the climate change. If you could remember back 5 years back or 6 years back, there didn't used to be this kind of weather in Egypt. There didn't used to be like a rainy season in Egypt. But if you can see now, at least every and each single year, the raining is increasing day by day. So that's why if you can see the Egyptian government had made, or it's taken a host at Sharm el-Sheikh to have the summit on the climate change. And this is the first time to have this summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, climate change. So if we can see the climate change, we have a lot of challenges, of course. And of course, we can also use the climate change to have the positivities. Let me give you, for example, an example, the way that we can deal with the climate change that will happen, not only in Egypt, everywhere on Earth. For example, in the winter, if you could remember last year, some parts of some countries of the western part of Africa, there was a little snow due to climate change. But before...
Which is something strange, right?
Yeah, which is something very strange.
And also in Egypt.
Also in Egypt. If you could say that states like Alexandria, this is all the result of the climate change. So this is something like unimaginable before. Something to happen in the continent or in the entire
and the long winter. I mean,
yes, the long winter.
It's not supposed to be that long also.
Yes, exactly. That's my point of view, by the way. It's not supposed to be that longer. If you can see, the winter used to be like 4 months to 5 approximately. or maximum 5 months. But if you could remember the last winter, it was about 7 months.
Exactly.
This is something new. This is something new ever happened. So this is all the results of the climate change. So there will be like every and each single part of the world, there will be change. For example, according to geographers, if you can see, all those countries whom are in the Middle East, there used to be only 2 seasons, winter and the summer. But in regard to the climate change that it's happening year by year nowadays, you can see the autumn season, I mean the rainy season, had started to come in some parts. And in some parts of Egypt, just like Alexandria, as you say, there was like snow, okay? So I think if we know how to deal with this climate change, it could be, I mean, it can bring us something positive. For example, with raining, this can make our agriculture to be good, I believe. If we can see the rainy season, we can make a good agriculture, and also we can make it to, how can I say it? If you can see some other forests in those countries that do have a desert, if the climate change continue to happen, like a rainy season, okay, it will like decrease the erosion, and in some countries it can increase the erosion as well. For example, these catastrophic condition like earthquake or something like that, or erosion, we used to hear, I mean, we used to only heard about it in European countries or Western countries in general. But if you can see this winter, this autumn season, I mean, in Nigeria, there were flood in some part of Nigeria. There was some like, I cannot call it earthquake, but it's like some kind of flood. When this is something happened, I mean, this is something new in Nigeria, in Africa in general. This is something new. This is all in the result of the climate change. So if you can see, and I wish I was in Sharm el-Sheikh, and I also wish I will be there to participate for this summit in order to deal more of about concerning the climate change. Yes, that is.
Yes, of course, and add to that also the avalanches in some parts of Europe and the world,
Definitely.
and also the pandemics that is affected because of what's happening, because of the intervention of the wrong human intervention in the environment and the endangered species in China. You know, you have too many things, and carbon emission and all that. But then the dangers facing the world is grave,
Sure.
and people should be in full recognition of those dangers.
Yes.
Where do you see the role of youth?
Well, that is the main concentration. We, as I have been saying, we always represent youth, okay? Youth in every and each single part of the decision making. Youth can play a big role, almost 70 to 80% of the role, because nation had only been building by youth. Every and each single country had been built by youth. A youth can play a good role in dealing with the climate change. For example, when it comes to the terms of the change itself, okay, you can see if you go to every and each single ministry, I mean, there are supposed to be like some vacancies that have been offered by youth. So I believe these youth, if they are to be well trained, they will play a good role in dealing with this climate change. I'm not talking only in the climate change, okay? I'm talking in all the things in general. I believe that if the youth are going to be well trained, they will play a good role in every and each single part of the activity in the activities, or of participating in the activities. Yes, because youth, as I have told you this before, as I could remember, more especially if we have more concern in our continent. The only continent that had, 70 to 80% numbers of youth is Africa. Africa, yes. So I believe that we youth can, I don't mean that we can do everything 100%, but I believe we can play an important role in running our continent. I do believe that if we are offered like a chance, I believe that we will make a good changes. If you can see back to the history, for example, me as from Nigeria, let me give you a little example with Nigeria. All the greatest leaders or all the greatest all the greatest leaders that at that particular time, they were in between 25 to 30 years, maximum 35. There were those people that are between this age were the greatest leaders ever because they were youth. Yes.
Can I ask you a question here?
Definitely.
If you could allow me.
Yes.
The same leaders you're talking about,
Yes.
those outstanding calibers,
Yes.
after they passed 35, were they bad people? I mean,
no.
you cannot, we can never, because there is an idea is that I cannot just judge someone by their looks or where they come from or their age or their weight or how they look, but with their performance and with their cultural background, because I'm pretty sure, I'm not supposed to say how my opinion, but I'm pretty sure that those people who you are talking about, after they passed 35, they were even much more greater, much more successful, because they built up experience, and they became open and mature to life and to politics and culture and everything. So from here, let me ask you another question. Don't you think that it's very important to that youth should take heed of being aware, have awareness of cultural background, of history? Like, look at you. You have a great deal of awareness when it comes to history of other countries, like here in Egypt, and you come from Nigeria, and you have a point of view when it comes to the challenges of climate change that distinguish you, not because you belong to a certain category in society, but because you distinguish yourself by your knowledge.
Definitely.
So how do you what's your intake about this?
Well, to be honest with you, thank you so much for asking me such questions specifically. Yes, they were greater people when they passed the 35, as you said. But if you, the fact of the matter is that they have been already through into the system when they were youth. I'm not trying to say
they were
that
given opportunity.
Yes, they were given opportunities, okay? They were given opportunities when they were youth, okay? So they had already been into the system since when they were youth, okay? So that let them open, okay? That let them like have more strategy. That led them to become a greatest leaders ever. That is why right after they passed into the age of youth, into the experience, okay? They all know about the system. They all know about the strategies. And when they became full matured, right after passing the age of 35 to 40, so that let them become greatest leaders. And in fact, they were greater than they were before. Because like if you can take the age of 35 or from 30 we can say up to 40, we can say someone is still youth. I mean he is still young, okay? But right after he had already been into that particular system at that age, he had already been gaining experience. Maybe he used to commit some little quite mistakes. Okay, but right after he passed this year,
they learn from mistakes.
They learn from their mistakes.
Hopefully, everybody would learn from their mistakes.
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
Yes, yeah. So when they passed into these years, they became matured enough, okay, they have good knowledge, they become fully 100%, I mean, aware into every and each single matter, okay? So this will let them to be more focused, okay? They will let, because when they were used, you know, what they say is that the difference between younger age and those whom are a little elder, we as young people, I mean, our emotions are greater than our mind, okay? While those whom are elders, their mind
This is great.
is greater
Of course,
than their
yes.
emotions, yes.
Right, of course.
So that is why whenever you let your emotions to be greater than your mind, that will definitely make a wrong decision sometimes. That is why, as I have said before, any executive order, not any, but most of the executive orders shall be given to younger age. And any legislative orders shall be given to elders. So I believe that this will make like equality. This will make a great administration. Yes.
Sounds very good.
Yep.
So the keenness of the world leaders to attend and participate, not only attend, but observe and participate in COP27 here in the Red Sea Resort of Sharm el-Sheikh and have, and they're very keen. It is well observed, and it was said in the media and by statements given by their representatives that they are keen and they need to participate in the COP27. They have a role, each country have a role.
Sure.
So what kind of message is that sending to the world about Egypt holding that important summit and Egypt chosen even to be holding that summit?
Yes, thank you so much for asking me such a question again. If you can see Egypt, I believe that Egypt had been doing a great and much better than we are expecting day by day in making such kind of summits. Because first of all, it creates peace. Secondly, unity, okay? And also this kind of summits, it is working to eradicate the tribalism, nationalism, discrimination, and the racism as well. Every and each single day, like, people are becoming closer to each other, youngest and eldest. So all these roles of the Egyptian government, all Egyptian citizens in general, I believe that this is something good. And by the way, I'm not trying to flatter, by the way, because I have been through into the systems. I have been through too many activities that were organized under Ministry of Youth and Sport, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Culture. I have been through into so many things. This is the only way that will keep you to feel like we are all one. We are all one family. We belong to the from one continent. It will make you feel like almost you are no longer a foreigner. Yes, it will make you feel motivated.
Motivated,
Yes,
yes.
it will make you.
That is the word.
Yes, yes. It will make you feel like, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can do it. Even not now, but someday.
That's
Nobody
true.
knows tomorrow.
Of course.
Yes.
And also the importance of meaningful youth engagement. It was clearly outlined in the Glasgow Climate Pact
Yes.
earlier in the COP26. The engagement of youth in, sharing in the means to be able to sort out solutions for the climate change in the future, in the coming 10 years.
Yes.
We need to elaborate over that also to build it on the COP27.
Well, yes. So according to my opinion, if you can see youth, actually, we do have like youth. I mean, as I have said before, nation had ever been built by youth. What is nation? What is country? Nation is a group of people who share a sense of national identity, usually including language and culture. Okay, so there is not necessary to be an actual government. Okay, so nation is any group of people who share a sense of national identity, usually including language and culture. Okay, but now in the century or in the period of globalization, okay, everything has become globalized. So it is not necessary to share language or culture. Yes, this is according to Joseph Catlib definition. He defined nation like is a group of people who share a sense of national identity, usually including language and culture. So that in this case, I am saying that it is not necessary to include youth, I mean to include language and culture, because now we are in the global world, okay? We are in the century of globalization. Every and each single part of the world had already become one. It is not necessary to share language. It is not necessary to share culture, I believe. For example, someone is Egyptian, I'm from Nigerian, but we live the same. We have been studying together. We have been like outing together, okay? So as long as these are youth, they need only guidance from the elders. Yes, elders can guide youth, okay? But also what I have been saying is that to make this great continent, because my only concern is within the continent in general. Because whenever I am talking concerning any this kind of issues, I am trying to generalize the whole continent. I'm not trying to specify a specific region or a specific country. We belong to this nation. We are working to make this nation great. But what will make us, or what is the best weapon we can use to build this great nation? I believe that every and each single country, or every and each single citizens from the different countries can do a contribution. What is the contribution? For example, you can see this country has something, that country had something. So if we can do a collaboration to amalgamate them together, I believe that this is going to be a great weapon to use in order to eradicate the illiteracy and hunger and poverty in the entire continent. For example, if we can say, we have to do this in order to have the what we call the equality. Because we cannot, I mean, we shall stop deceiving ourselves, like for saying only me, selfishness. This had never been like, this had never created any solution, selfishness. We shall still, I mean, we shall stop deceiving ourselves. For example, a country like Nigeria, for example, every and each single person, you shall believe that this is the country that has greatest higher economy, politics, and some kind of natural resources. For example, a country of Egypt, like Egypt, you shall believe that it has a great higher education, good infrastructure, and so on and so forth, okay? So if we can do this equality between or among ourselves and stop deceiving each other, I believe that there will be equality, okay? So we can take this from there, we can take this from here to match them together. This will create a much greater power than more than we expected, okay? There will be like, I don't mean to be like one country. Will never happen, I believe, but there will be a great union. There will be a great union that will unite the Africa.
And for the best interests of the whole world.
Definitely. This is what I was telling you earlier. I believe that Egyptian government can do this, as the government have been doing these programs. This is what let us feeling that we are one. This is what, if you could remember, or if you could remember before, there didn't used to be something like, you can see, for example, Egyptian and foreigner hanging out together, just like we do now. There didn't used to be like this. But role of youth, I mean role of government in making youth knowing each other, okay? Like we are feeling like we are almost brothers, all of us. I believe that this is one of the best, I mean, one of the best things that Egyptian government have been doing. And also, if you go to those kind of summits that the government have been holding, this is one of the things that making youth to become closer to each other day by day. One day, there will not be something called racism or discrimination or tribalism. I believe that. yes, in doing this kind of activities. And this is something actually very great. And everywhere I go, I say this, actually. This is one of the most important things I've ever learned in Egypt. Doing this, organizing this kind of summits, organizing this kind of events, because this will create a mutual connection. This will create a positive thought among the youth, okay? Will let them know that, will let them play an important role in dealing with the climate change or any situation. This is the best option, actually, according to my opinion. Yes.
And also, we're going to be talking in detail about the different elements or topics that are supposed to be tackled in order to overcome the changes of climate change. On top of them is transformation to green economy and using the renewable energy.
Yes.
Renewable energy is going to be the key word of sorting out solutions for the climate change.
Yes.
And speaking about renewable energy and finding new means of consumption of energy, the electric vehicles, of course, are going to be our means for transportation instead of the old-fashioned ones.
Sure.
And electric vehicles, of course, as we all know, is a part important part of meeting global goals on climate change, like I said, and they are our means, our focus and means of lowering the carbon emission over lifetime to come. And coming up is a report that is talking about that, and I'm going to be continuing our important chat after we come back and see the report.
Electric vehicles are an important part of meeting global goals on climate change. They feature prominently in mitigation pathways that limit warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius and pursuing efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which would be in line with the Climate Change Conference COP27 in Egypt. EVs are responsible for considerably lower emissions over the lifetime than conventional vehicles. Research by the European Energy Agency found that even with electricity generation, the carbon emissions of an electric car are around 17 to 30% lower than driving a petrol or diesel car. The emissions from electricity generation is also dramatically improved when low-carbon electricity is used. Research has shown that electric cars are better for the environment as they emit fewer greenhouse gases and air pollutants than petrol or diesel cars. This takes into account their production and electricity generation to keep them running. The major benefit of electric cars is the contribution that they can make towards improving air quality in towns and cities. With no tailpipe, pure electric cars produce no carbon dioxide emissions when driving. This reduces air pollution considerably. In over a year, just one electric car on the road can save an average of 1.5 million grams of CO2. That's the equivalent of 4 return flights from London to Barcelona.
Welcome back. And right now we have with us over the phone live His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good morning, Ambassador Bayoumi.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir?
Fine.
Ready for the COP27, inshallah?
Oh, since decades.
Hopefully, inshallah. Of course, as we all know, that all media outlets are following the preparations, the excellent preparations and the efforts exerted by the government and every institution in the government to be able to bring the best image, which is already existing here in Egypt, to the world about a country that is coping with the new green world, and especially in Sharm el-Sheikh. Lots of things, lots of work is being done. Talk to us about, first let's talk about choosing Egypt as a venue for the summit after Glasgow.
That is usual. I am proud that we have a very ancient history, with conferences, with diplomacy, which we celebrated in March, 100 years of our new diplomacy. But if you go to history, our diplomacy started 2,000 years before Christ. Also, recently we have we became very important place where you can address the whole world through conferences, whether in Cairo, Alexandria, and Sharm el-Sheikh. And I always give the example that when the President of the United States, President Obama, wanted to talk to the whole Islamic community, 1,400 million inhabitants, he came to Cairo and he addressed the world from Cairo University. When Europe wanted to talk to Africa in the year 2000, they came to Cairo, and we have witnessed 68 presidents in the same conference. So we have the experience and we have the history concerning successful conferences. In this special conference, the task is not easy. We are talking here about something which costs a lot of money if we abide to what we need to our environment. The second problem, that those who are doing bad to our environment are the developed countries, the rich countries, especially in China, United States, and some other countries. And it's a matter of cost. Their industry doesn't want to bear the cost of abiding to what we need to have a better environment.
Right.
And it is well known that they always commit themselves to do this or that, but they do not, in practice, do what they promise to do. This is mainly the whole environment of this conference. But we hope that with the Egyptian diplomacy, with the diplomacy of the group of the developing countries, the group of 77, which is in real 139 countries who are suffering from these practices, can convince those industrialized countries to cooperate in order to make our life much better. Unfortunately, we all share the environment of this very small village which we call the earth. We smell the same air, whether it is in Africa or in Europe or the Americas. That's why we have to cooperate, all of us, in order to have better life, better environment around us.
That is no doubt. And also, an important thing is that in order to achieve our goals and stand up to the dangers of climate change, we have to set examples and to be role models and to execute rulings and to execute laws, to enforce laws harshly, to be able to fulfill what you kindly just mentioned, is that to take precautions and do the right thing in order not to face the hazards of climate change. And this is what Egypt have been following for the past almost 12 months or even for 2 years, working to transform our economy into a green one, to transform our governments to be environmentally friendly, and to enhance the awareness about taking heed to maintain the environment and the ecosystem and maintain a good biological balance. Sharm el-Sheikh is a very good example of that. It is the first green city in the Middle East to be visited. So what does that reflect to the visitors of COP27?
This is very wise. What you are saying is very good policy. If you want to convince people to follow a good policy, you have to start by yourself, because we are not going to ask people to do what we do not do. And I give another example. Europe also started since decades to have better environment, especially in their car industries. The exhaust of their cars are not the same of ours. So less carbon, less environment which is not acceptable. And you are absolutely right that Sharm el-Sheikh became a sort of example, good example about a city which is abiding to the requirements of a good weather. But it's not enough, unfortunately, because we are a small part of the whole world. So we are doing our best just to give the example that what we are asking others to do, that we started by ourselves. And sorry, not only in Sharm el-Sheikh, but we are trying to do this now in Cairo. We are establishing a whole new capital in order to make Cairo less crowded. We are establishing many new cities to make our environment build on new ways of building cities free of any bad practices against the environment. So it is quite good performance, but unfortunately we are not the cause or the main cause
Of
of
course.
bad environment. We have to convince those who are doing bad to our environment to follow this example and to do their best to make our life much better.
Of course, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, Your Excellency, thank you so much talking to the Breakfast Show, and you are a former assistant, former foreign minister. Thank you so much, and you have a good day. And going back to you, Ambassador Ibrahim, for youth.
Welcome back, Dina.
As you have seen, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi have talked about setting examples
Sure.
for the world. How are we going to talk to youth, talk to intellectuals, talk to entrepreneurs, talk to industrials who are the most or the main factor for the pollution with the carbon emission and throwing the leftover in the Pacific Ocean? And I mean, I'm talking about the power countries that are the main reason for the pollution, like big industrial countries. I mean, exporting their waste to the developing countries. And Africa is prone to that waste and prone to the climate change more than any other continent. Why is that?
Well, actually, the issue is clear. You can see. The issue is that, according to my opinion, not only government can handle this. The citizens of the society or of the specific community can handle the issue themselves. For example, if you go to some rural areas, okay, you might think that government do not know about these people, okay? Or you can see on the street, for example, a street is erosion, okay? Buildings are collapsing, okay? So do you want to government to come and pick you this? No, you have to do it yourself, of course. You have to do it yourself. So we do not supposed to like everything to rely on the government, okay? Like as Ambassador just said, if you can see the youth, role of youth, and our always consideration, I mean our main focus concerning our topics are related to youth. So according to my opinion, if you can see the African continent in general, the most continent that is facing this climate change in the entire world, it is African continent. What shall be done? What shall be done is that I think governments can handle this. Yes, you have mentioned something to use the power to upgrade it into electronic transportation. I believe if our governments can negotiate, can make a negotiating between themselves, they can handle the matter. Things will be much easier than we expected, okay? For example, we can do a metro or a train, railway. Let's take an example. For example, from Cairo to Khartoum, okay, from Khartoum to N'Djamena, from N'Djamena to Abuja, Casablanca, Cape Town, okay. I believe that governments can do this, definitely, with no doubt. This will make things easier and it will make more connection.
Of course.
We have become one.
Of course, and
Yes.
everybody's keen on doing this, hopefully, inshallah, after COP27.
Inshallah.
And recommendations are. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. We have a lot to say, and we're going to be saying it
Totally
during
fine.
the course of COP27, hopefully, inshallah, starting from 7th and 8th and until 18th. Ambassador Ibrahim Jibrin, the African Youth Ambassador, would like to thank you so much.
The
Wish
pleasure
you
is
the best
mine.
of luck. You have a
Welcome.
good day. And I guess by this we come to the end for this edition of The Breakfast Show. Tomorrow morning we're going to see you again. Until then, you have a good day.